me wanna holler, go away. I need more peace and hope and love. Where do I find it in this crazy old world? I need strategies, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Every time I listen, Lauren and David share strategies for living, and it makes me aware. I've got strategies for living, strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab. Strategies for living radio. Your dose of radio rehab.
Oh, you know, we need them.
Strategies for living radio.
We need those strategies, don't we? Those strategies for living. So are you ready? You ready for your daily dose of radio rehab?
I'm ready. I feel
You
like
did it.
I
You
feel like
unlocked the door today, didn't you?
Did I? I
Yeah.
feel like we've been here before.
Yeah, well, what I was talking about in unlocking the door, look who's joining us.
Letting this fella in.
Yeah,
This wonderful guy.
This wonderful guy named Gary Tiemann. Gary, how you doing?
I'm great, and I'm so happy to be here. We've got a really interesting show today.
We always do when you
Yes.
show up. You bring the most interesting people to the table.
Maybe that's the right way to put it, because I've brought someone very interesting to the table again today. And I'm going to just say one word, and we'll tease them with this word, and Chuck will tell us more about this. But the word is longitude.
Ooh, okay.
That's a good teaser. I like
That's
that.
a very good teaser. And Chuck McMurray is our life strategist today. He is a new board member.
A new advisory board member on our reincarnation work. And he has brought he's a technology genius with artificial intelligence. And he brings a resource and an asset to our work that we're doing, that we're growing leaps and bounds, and we have optimism like I haven't had with this organization in a long time.
That's wonderful, because and I'm so glad that there's so much energy and excitement about continuing the wonderful work that Dr. Walter Simcoe started. And we'll give this we'll give this web address many times throughout our program today. But I'll start now, reincarnation.info. If you are at all intrigued and would like information, that'll be the place to go for now.
That's a good place to start.
We've got some exciting news that you and Chuck can talk about what is coming.
Yes.
And Lauren and I have heard just a little bit. It's exciting.
Man.
Good stuff. Folks, thank you for tuning in to Strategies for Living. We appreciate you being with us, and we appreciate our sponsors making it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, some pretty good muffies too, Uprising, Addiction Center, and Mira, Direct Primary Care. Back in a moment, we're going to meet Chuck McMurray here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us.
Tune in daily, find the light. Healthy mind and spirits bright. Strategies for living strong. Feel the vibe, it won't go wrong. Body moves and soul align. Catch the rhythm, feel the time. Radio rehab every day. Chase those clouds of gray away. Your daily dose of radio rehab. Lift you up when skies seem drab. Mind and body, spirits free. Living life in harmony.
And welcome into Strategies for Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, and our very special guest life strategist, Gary Tiemann. You're almost a co-host. You've been here so much, you're almost a co-host. I almost feel like I don't have to introduce you anymore.
I'm privileged to be here. I like to call this a second home.
A licensed clinical social worker. Once they let him out of Angola,
That's right.
all kidding aside, he did. You did your early work, internship work.
First
Yeah.
social work job was on the mental health team at Angola.
Wow, what a way to start, huh?
It was an eye-opening experience.
I bet it was. And you've been in private practice now for
Over 30 years.
wow. you and I go back.
We go way back.
We go back to your charter for when you were clinical director out at Charter Forest. Some people will remember that name
Some
from long ago.
the older ones.
Yeah. Anyway, always good to have you.
And I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled that we're here, and we're going to be talking about some really interesting things with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And so introduce Chuck McMurray to us. We kind of teased, give Mr. McMurray the introduction that he deserves.
Well, Chuck McMurray is one of the most, how to say this, he is gifted. That's the right word. He is gifted in many ways, and he's the newest board member to our advisory board for Reincarnation Research. And he has brought so much potential and so much advantage to us in our work that we're thinking and growing in ways we've never been able to allow ourselves to think before. And it's has a whole lot to do with Chuck. And on top of that, he's got a great story, and we teased with the word longitude. And I'm going to let Chuck let you know what the relevance of that word is to his story.
Chuck McMurray, welcome into Strategies for Living. We're delighted you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, so now I'm very curious. Longitude. Is
Sure.
that, are we out at sea or what? I don't know.
Not a word you hear too often, right?
No, it's not.
So on my past life research, regression, if you will, I was sort of dared by a friend years ago to go have a past life regression session with a practitioner named Susan Weishart back in 2015. And the long story short is I found out that I was the reincarnation of John Harrison, who solved the longitude problem for England. They were giving away a very large prize in the 1700s for anyone who could solve longitude at sea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about how difficult that is, John Harrison's invention was to apply the use of a very accurate clock
Right.
on the ocean, and that's difficult because a pendulum uses gravity and boats like to rock.
Right.
So he needed to come up with a way to make that clock work so they could track the time difference between England and where they were. And that allows you to calculate longitude by looking at the noon sun.
Mm-hmm.
So far back before we had GPS and electronics, he was the inventor of the chronometer that solved the longitude problem. And he was paid at the end of his life a very hefty sum, but really began to give Great Britain navigational capabilities that they hadn't had before, which the Navy used very well to expand the empire.
Yeah, and how did that change the world that we all live in? Yeah,
Exactly.
So you mentioned a bet, Chuck, and I'm remembering another guy, Robert Snow, who who really, and I don't know, I'm not speaking for you, Chuck, but you're sounding almost like something that Robert said. I mean, it was. I think his was a dare or a bet, and then he began to use his investigative. He was a police investigator, and he began to use his investigative, prowess and skills. And he, from being a complete skeptic, after his past life regression, he became a 100% believer. He's been on a couple of times in the past here on Strategies. Was that the case with you? Were you a complete skeptic, a non-believer? How would you have described yourself prior to the bet?
Sure. Well, mine was probably a bit more formal. I had been studying. I didn't really know much about reincarnation until I got involved in things like astrology, and was just questioning sort of the purpose of my career, my life, and I was in the midst of a lot of change. I was 33 years old, oddly enough, funny number, right?
Yeah.
And decided to kind of take this path of studying esoteric things, and was with a friend, and I was telling her about all of this stuff that I had been uncovering. I'd read a book called The Synchronicity Key at the time, and was reading a lot of Brian Weiss's work. And I said, God, it's so interesting to see that these people have been able to find themselves in history. And she had said, well, why don't you go do it? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I believe I'd be able to find it. And she's like, I bet that you probably would be a person who could remember something like that. So I thought, you know what, I'll call up Susan Weishart, who's really well known for it, and go have a session. And I went into it with a completely open mind, really no expectations whatsoever. And that was the real surprise, is the amount of information that came through that there was no way I could possibly have explained and had no interest or knowledge of Great Britain's history, save for what maybe I learned in high school,
Wow.
So, and that was a big direction change for me.
I bet.
Hey, Chuck, did you know about that movie Longitude at the time, or did that come after you learned about this stuff?
No. So it's funny, because when you discover sort of who you are, but you have really no prior information, but you happen to be one of those people that has a case that I would say is documented in history, it's almost overwhelming to discover that. So I had no interest really in clocks, but I had a mechanical ability that was very natural, and I love to learn. So that's probably part of that soul that was retained. But, a lot of the things that were published about Longitude, there was a woman by the name of Dava Sobel, who was a publisher very interested in John Harrison's work. She published a lot in the 90s. And, I was a teenager in the 90s. I got my driver's license. I was playing basketball. I was doing stuff. And I can tell you that I never would have been interested nor had the attention span to learn around, anything about clockmaking or whatever. So I was just as surprised later in life when I discovered this case that I would have been a person who was involved with clocks. Obviously, precision timepieces take an exactitude, but that showed up in everything else that I did. All of my other hobbies, my work, my career. So in one way, I was very surprised. In another, it felt very natural. But the process of discovering who he was a long one. I was looking around for completely the wrong person, and that was kind of the adventure. So.
Yeah. How has the discovery, obviously it was a series of discovery.
Yes.
How has this series of discovery changed how Chuck McMurray lives his life now? What difference does this make, this information that you have now gathered, make for you in your life now?
So I would say not only has it been a positive and sort of a mind-expanding experience, but just truly fundamentally amazing. And I think part of the process of looking for yourself and then uncovering those clues, the journey is just as exciting as the results. And it's actually one of the reasons I got involved with the Reincarnation Research group, is because I thought, gosh, if this can have such a positive impact on my faith, my outlook, my general interest in the challenges of my life, I've got to be able to help other people to find this. And we come back to navigation, right? That's what John Harrison did for the high seas.
Yeah.
And now I'm trying to help people to navigate what I would say is their inner selves and their past lives, and that feels very natural.
Yeah,
exactly.
You mentioned faith, and there are a lot of people that are listening to us right now that might close their minds just at the label of reincarnation. Sure. And I find it intriguing that you mentioned that it increased your faith. Talk.
Yes.
We got to take a break here in about a minute and a half, but in that time, how did this new knowledge increase the faith that you have?
So I was raised Irish Catholic, right? Grew up in the city of Chicago, went to private schools, grade school, high school. And I never really was able to apply the things that I was being taught from a religion perspective.
Right.
It's not that I wasn't a believer. I certainly wasn't an atheist, but being able to find the everyday application of what faith really means, which requires trust, was kind of abstract to me. And then when I realized that somebody could, essentially perform a magic trick, but one that is so deeply rooted in your own mind and in your own heart that you're not being fooled, that you're really seeing something equivalent to a miracle, that you reinvigorate, I think, the intent that religion sets out to teach people, but in such a personal, prescribed way that you have no more doubt and that you have all the interest in the world to be able to share that gift. And I think that's what religion tries to teach us, but many of us are just on different pathways to get there.
So
it's been great.
So well said. So well said. Chuck McMurray is our life strategist today. You want more info? Well, reincarnation.info would be a good place to go. And but don't go away from this conversation, because we've got lots more to learn from Chuck McMurray and Gary Tiemann today here on Strategies for Living. We'll be right back. And welcome back into Strategies for Living Radio. Lauren McMillian, Gary Tiemann, David McMillan, our life strategist today. Chuck McMurray, who is a new advisory board member of reincarnation.info. That is the site that we would recommend for you to go to dive in. Walter Simcoe, who was a life strategist a couple of times on this program, as was Dr. Weiss, Chuck. I had the honor and the privilege of interviewing Brian Weiss a couple of times here on Strategies. I think that was even before your and my time, Gary.
Right. Yeah, he was a pioneer for us. I'm so glad that you guys are doing what you're doing, and there's so much more to come, which, Gary, I know you can't wait to really talk about. I'm very excited about this. Dr. Simcoe pointed out and made the assertion way back that the basic architecture of the face seems to stay the same from one incarnation to the next. And so it just happens how these coincidences happen.
No such thing.
That all of a sudden we come across Chuck McMurray, and he's expert in building AI facial recognition systems.
Wow.
And Chuck, I'm going to let you take it from there.
Sure. Yeah. So for me, in my own personal case, I was one of Dr. Simcoe's highest match percentage between faces from a past life and my current life. And it was kind of the apex moment, the oh my gosh moment that really occurred. I had been investigating my past life case, and I had been collecting information about who I thought this person might be. I had the past life regression. I knew that I had been in 1700s England. I knew I had a son named William. I thought I had a clock shop, which, I was trying to get my bearings on how that occurs. And then on John Harrison's 325th birthday, April 3rd, 2018, I sit down at my desk, the second day at a job where I'm actually building out AI tools. And one of the tool sets is for facial recognition. But that had nothing to do with what I was looking for. I went to Google, and the Google Doodle for the day was a throwback to John Harrison as the discoverer of longitude. It was his birthday. And so I see a guy in a wig. He's in front of a bunch of clocks standing at a workbench. And in my past life regression, that's what I remember seeing. So of course I'm like, it's 8 a.m. I'm having my first coffee and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And I open up the doodle page and I'm looking back at myself, but in a white wig and an outfit with a background. Yeah. And I probably didn't take a next breath for 30 seconds. I was so shocked.
Yeah.
But later on, when my senses came to, I took a picture of myself that was in the same position and lighting as John Harrison and pushed it through the AI model because I thought this is uncanny. Mm-hmm. And the what we would call the co-zenefficient or the match rate was 82%. What that really means is if the picture is exactly the same of the same person, it would be a 1.0 or 100%. Right. And so a picture that's 325 years old, a portrait, and a picture of myself had that high of a match rate. And that was just taking the photograph casually. It's not like I had set up a studio or anything like that.
Right.
So that was the moment. And then I had to learn about who's this guy in the portrait. And of course the facts lined up. So the picture was the apex moment, and everything after that then anchored that this is why all the facts line up the same way. So that was the
if people want to get a visual of what we're talking about in terms of the facial and the match before and after, go any of Walter Simkew's books have it in there, but there's a treasure trove of them on reincarnation.info, and it's fascinating.
Correct.
It's absolutely fascinating to look at the how you can see the match of the face and the facial structure.
And there's some that, there's a lot of variation in terms of that. While the basic architecture is there, some lifetimes people can be a little heavier than before.
Sure.
Or,
different gender or race, right?
Yeah, there's those kind of things. But but you'll see, I don't know of a case that I didn't see the resemblance. And then Chuck comes along with his case, and it's just remarkable.
Now, that's one of the things that we're really excited about, and we'll have you back as this develops. But you're working. You guys are actually working at reincarnation.info. You're working on morphing. You're not going to reincarnation info is not going to go away. .info is not going to go away. But you guys are vastly improving the tools that
and
we're all going to have, right?
Giving people a starting place to start investigating this stuff. And the more and more, in my mind, the more and more that we have people interested and starting to not be so resistant to the idea of reincarnation, then that leads us into, then we get to really start discussing, and what's the point? What does this serve? This, reincarnation is not just a happenstance.
Right.
There's purposes to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to open the gates for us to really dive into what is the implications of that for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I could for a moment, let me go back in my memory bank to a couple of conversations I mentioned earlier that I had with Dr. Brian Weiss, who, if you know him and you've read any of his books, you know that he's very well trained. He's a well trained. He's a psychiatrist. He's an MD. He's a scientist.
Didn't believe in it.
He didn't believe in any of this. And I recall him talking about in our interview his very first session with a 22-year-old young lady, 23, and she had a number of problems,
but no medication.
And he was doing standard hypnosis with her. Mm-hmm. He wasn't doing regression happened.
Right.
And that wasn't his initial purpose. He was just wanting her to be better. And then she starts relating this past life. Interestingly enough, Dr. Weiss was able, in this case, to go back and find some historical validation.
Yeah.
But, you know, what I recall more than anything else is him saying to me, and I'm paraphrasing now because it's been a while, but I remember him saying, you know, he said, is it real? I can't prove it or disprove it, but here's what I can prove. And by the time I talked to him, he had regressed thousands of people. He said, what I do know is that the vast majority of people who come in and do regressions get better. They improve drastically.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes just by remembering, right?
Yeah. And he said, that's what matters to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think it is a very underused, even not fully understood therapeutic tool that's available to us that we're developing.
yes.
And Chuck is helping us make this a more mainstream thing. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but Chuck is helping us making this something available to people that gives them more tools to start this process.
Yeah. Puts it in their own hands so that they can start the process themselves.
Yes.
Get really.
Yes.
Everybody that I've talked to, you know, and I've mentioned some already, and I include you in that, Gary, once they get involved in the process, they grow.
And
they grow.
And, you know, it's still not fully accepted in the scientific community.
Right.
And, but at some point, there's going to be so much evidence that it can't be ignored.
Right.
You know, we're scientists primarily, you know, regardless of what religion you and I are or what our faith or beliefs are, we've got evidence coming out the wazoo now. And Chuck is going to give us another avenue for more evidence, and this evidence as scientists cannot be dismissed.
I think in terms of what is going to be developed, and Chuck, can we look forward to some of these things coming online later this year on into next year? What do we have a timeline yet of you know, when some of this will roll out and be available?
Yeah, actually, most of the technology that we've developed, and really we're just bringing Walter Semke's methods of being able to validate a past life. We're just bringing it electronically and enhancing it with AI so that the common person who has an interest doesn't have to sit behind a desk with dusty books. They can get on the internet and really find answers faster and more accurately. But we've already got a working beta model.
Oh.
And if you go to Reincarnation.info, there's a page that says start here. And that'll teach you the process. And then you can even submit your interest and engage with us in that regard. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for anyone, whether they're understanding reincarnation for the first time or they have a case they've been researching for many years, and being able to help them along their path.
So again, just go to reincarnation.info and find Start Here. And
Correct.
That'll take you by the hand, and you can then begin the process.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Well, you know, we often say, Lauren and Gary, on this program, I know both of you sometimes probably get sick of me saying it, but, you know, if I live to be 105, I want to remain a curious student.
I'll never get sick of you saying it because I'm counting on it.
Right on up to the. I want to be a curious student right up to the very end.
Yeah.
And because I think that's, you know, who knows what exciting might be beyond. But I aim to try to find out if I can.
Amen.
Chuck McMurray, Gary Tiemann, reincarnation.info. That's the place to go to begin. It adds to the great Dr. Walter Semke's wonderful work. And we've got more. We've got more here on Strategies for Living. So don't go away. More to come.
We all have problems. day. We all need help along the way. We need strategies, strategies, strategies for living radio.
And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Gary Tiemann, Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian. We're here with Chuck McMurray, new board member, new advisory board member at reincarnation.info. And if you have not visited that site, it's a fascinating place to begin and bring your curiosity, bring your questions, and you may be surprised at what you learn.
Yeah, Chuck, so AI is up and coming probably faster than any of us had ever seen coming. And I think there's a lot of skepticism, but I think there's also a lot of fear, especially when you include the idea of facial recognition. What do you say, Chuck, to us who are interested in reincarnation, but maybe even a little fearful or skeptical of the AI piece?
So the way that I would tell people AI is helping us today is to look at AI like an encyclopedia with a mouth and ears. Mm-hmm. It's really a collection of information, right? And so although it comes across as a very smart and in sort of intuitive, tool, it's really just designed for people to use language to be able to interact with these computer systems and with the internet, as before, you were searching things like Google and Wikipedia. So it's really just doing the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah.
And I can understand why that would scare some people, because because you're using natural language, you're like, who am I talking to? But what you're really doing is you're asking a library of information questions that it can generally understand. And so, with reincarnation, the easiest approach I tell people is to just use what I call the 6 best friends approach, right? You're asking, who, what, where, why, how, and those questions will drive out information that'll help in the research that you're doing. Mm. And so there's an easier way to interact with any of the tools that are out there. The one everyone knows is ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. But the reason I'm excited about it is these tools are being made in a free format to the world. And then for those that want to interact with it at a higher level, there's, cheaper entryways, $20 a month, so forth, right, that want to really do deep digging. So it's affordable to the consumer in the best ways that it can be. And I think that really gives us that encyclopedia for all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be exciting as you guys roll this stuff out for you to put it in the hands of more people. And I'm making the assumption here that then the more people interact with the various tools that are going to come online through reincarnation.info. It's already started now, obviously. But you guys are going to roll out more on the facial recognition. You're going to roll out an app. You're going to make it available.
Is there going to be
more people?
Is there going to be at some point like the ability to upload my picture, for instance, and not have any idea of any sort of previous incarnation and maybe find a match? Is that going to be a possibility at some point?
Good question, and Chuck can answer that for me.
I was hoping so.
Yeah. So we're getting there. You can upload your picture, and again, remember you're working with the internet. So a picture of your face. If you've been on Facebook, if you've been on other sites, it likely already exists. But what you're doing is you're essentially saying, hey, can you find someone that looks like me? But the direction that you want to give the AI with the picture is, I believe that I've had a past life, and I may have, if you've got some recollection. So what I always tell people is you'll want to add some other details, because you're really going out to all of the information and you're saying, who do I look like? And you have the effects, you've heard people, the concept of like the doppelganger.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of people that will look like you today, But what you might want to say is, could you find who I might resemble in history? And I have an affinity for early English life, or I believe that I was in Asia in the 1800s. And with that kind of guidance, it can start to ask you further questions about maybe the timeline, or who you knew, or what maybe the kind of work or hobbies or life that you remember living. And that information, along with your face, starts to narrow down the possibilities of who you may have been in written history.
Fascinating place to begin.
And you know, I think about AI and my limited ability about this, because I'm really not very good with computers at all, but we're coming up with computing power that I don't think we can really quite fathom yet.
No.
Yeah.
How could we? You know, the very first computer course that I ever took, I never
cards?
saw the. Yeah, I had to do a punch card, and I never saw the computer, but it was described by the professor. I mean, it was
Took up a whole room.
took up a
right?
whole room.
Yeah.
And now there's more computing power in our hands
On
most
your
of
wrist.
on our wrist
Right?
even than probably that mainframe computer had back in 1975, I guess.
As we're getting ready to send more astronauts to the moon,
Right.
I understand our phones have more technology in them than the technology they had to send people to the moon the first time.
Right.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Can Chuck, you know, can you even imagine where we're going to be? And you're obviously working on some of this stuff. Where will we be in 5 years, in 10 years, in terms of some of this stuff?
Well, the biggest advancement, artificial intelligence is a way that computers think and can interact with us through natural language. But in 5 years, quantum computing, which is almost a mystery to everybody, is going to continue to increase the pace in which we're able to get answers. So if you were to give a computer today a problem that it might need, and I'm not kidding when I say this, 10 million years to solve at current capacity, quantum computing can narrow down the ability to answer those questions in less than a few minutes. And that exponential is just mind-boggling.
Mm-hmm.
But what it allows us to do is sort through answers that we didn't even think we could ask questions for. And that's the unknown. You know, that's the space in which inventions that we've never even thought that we could want could be discovered.
Yeah.
And that makes it exciting and a little scary at the same time. But
Sure.
all new things are like that.
Yeah. What new discovery
Into
is
the unknown.
is not a little bit scary. We're with Chuck McMurray, new advisory board member of reincarnation.info, and that would be a good place for you to begin to go have fun, be playful with it.
Amen.
Be curious, dive in and learn.
Have an
And
open mind.
Have an open mind and go to it, reincarnation.info, building on the wonderful work of Dr. Walter Simcoe. We will be back with Chuck and with Gary in just a moment here on Strategies for a Living. Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for a Living. Lauren Leon McMillian, David McMillian, Gary Tiemann. You never disappoint. You just don't ever disappoint.
And today I give all the credit to Chuck. This is me bringing good people here.
Yeah. Well, you brought
we're glad.
a
We're thankful.
wonderful guy today, Chuck McMurray, reincarnation.info. Chuck, we've only got a minute or so left. What do you really want to leave us with? What do you want to leave folks with about our conversation today and the ongoing conversation? Hopefully that we will continue to have.
Well, I'd like to get back to the thing that Gary said earlier is, you know, if I was investigating reincarnation, what would it teach me? And what I'll say is, if you could go back in time and ask an earlier version of yourself, what you would like to know. That would help you to understand the path as to why you're doing certain things in this life, why you have affinities for certain foods, why you like certain parts of places you've traveled to, why you love or hate your career, perhaps maybe why you're having challenges with certain people. If you could go back and ask yourself the questions and find out that information, what would it mean to you? And I think that's the part that really makes this exciting and can turn skeptics into interested parties. And I think that's the part of it that makes it so exciting.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thank you for coming and sharing it with us. And we look forward to the next time that we get to talk with you.
Thanks for having me.
And Gary, as always, thank you for wonderful life strategist.
Thank you for giving us a forum to do this.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you for listening. And we appreciate our sponsors who make it all possible. The Robinson Film Center, Azalea Cleaners, Pintail Roofing, Learning RX, We Train Your Brain, the Balanced Life Wellness Center, Fertitta's Delicatessen, home of the Godfather, Alligator Italian Sausage, and some pretty good Muffies too, Uprising Addiction Center, and Mira Direct Primary Care. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who would you call? And what would you say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Chuck McMurray, for Gary Tiemann, for Lauren McMillian, I'm David McMillan. See you next time right here on Strategies for Living.